So tonight, I, along with colleagues in the room, want to welcome back a good friend and colleague from Alexandria, Egypt. Mona Ahmed Saleh is a graduate of the University of Alexandria herself, a recent graduate, if I may say. Her major was linguistics and translation, and she has served as a professional translator for, I can't say a number of years, but for a brief part of her young life so far. And she currently is on the professional staff at the Library of Alexandria, which, as we all know, is associated with one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world and one of the wonders of the modern world as well. That legacy, that historic legacy, that cultural legacy is fully represented programmatically and architecturally and historically, and it's because of the university's Fulbright scholarship and the leadership of Professor Hassan Khan in our front row and Professor Mary Beth McPhee, Hassan from our School of Architecture, Art and Historic Preservation, and Mary Beth McPhee from the Anthropology Department at the university. That study team spent an entire month, the month of July really, in Egypt this summer. Dean Robert Cole at the back of the room, front of the room, and I had a wonderful opportunity to also join them mid-visit in Egypt. But it's about Mona, her observations personally and professionally, that we want to hear about tonight. She is our representative from the Library of Alexandria to the university because we have a formal agreement that Assistant Provost Guilan Wang and I are associated with, along with Robert Cole and the faculty who support it. I want to thank particularly Kate Green, who is behind us, because from the Spiegel Center for Global and International Programs, she has been, in advance of Mona's visit and throughout it, the splendid facilitator for much of your visit this month long. I want to say no more than please join me in welcoming Mona Ahmed Saleh.
Actually, it's my pleasure being here and my honor being with you. My name is Mona from Egypt, from the Library of Alexandria. I know that some of you are familiar with the library, some are not familiar with the library. So, is my voice? And Kate has like flyers of the library that summarize what is the Library of Alexandria and the main objectives of the library and the main institution. So briefly, the Library of Alexandria is an Egyptian institution with an international character. It is just 9 years old, so the inauguration, the official inauguration was in 2002, but we are now a huge institution with 2,000 staff members. We have 7 sectors, and each sector we have 6 or 7 departments. We have a number of museums, centers for educational centers, centers for science and technology, cultural centers. So it is a huge organization, and we have very diverse, a number of very diverse programs. So whenever you have time, just browse the website and see all the programs that we have. We work with children, we work with adults, we work with professors. We receive each year we receive like 1 million visitors, and we organize 700 events and projects every year. So it is a huge institution, and we are still developing, and we're still exploring opportunities for collaboration with different institutions in the world. And we have a number of collaborations with a number of universities in the US, like Yale University, American University, and now we are trying to see how we can collaborate with Yale University. The collaboration started last month with a program, a number of faculty from University and a number of teachers from Paris High School. and they came for a month, and they had first-hand experiences of the library and its capacity. So I'm now here to see how we can develop collaboration between the BA and Roger Williams University and Rhode Island. So while planning my presentation, I thought that the title of my presentation will be Women in Egypt, Where We Are Going, and then I think that this question will be, I will be like, will not be fair because the question should be where is Egypt going and not women. So today I will give you like a very general overview of women in Egypt, because I'm sure that I don't know how much you know about the Egyptian society, about women. There are some stereotypical images of women in the Arab region, veiled and black, not allowed to go out. Of course, there are some discrimination. Of course, we are discriminated against, but the image is not that black. Okay, so women in modern Egypt.
Do you mind if I turn off?
First, I will start with the general information about the status of women in Egypt, and then I will take you back into the history of the beginning of feminism or the women's movement in Egypt. We'll focus on the 19th and 20th centuries. And then we'll have a quick look about Egyptian women in the 21st century. And then women after the Egyptian uprising, because women, they were present during the uprising, during the revolution, and now their situation is not there. And then concluding remarks. So, Egypt has a population of almost 82 million with about 48 refugees. So, the literacy rate in Egypt is very high. Among adults, actually, we have around 51%. So it's very high. And this is very evident in rural and upper Egypt. We'll find that women who are illiterate are around 62%, which is very high rate. So girls enrollment in school, girls are still lying behind. So from every 100 boys, you'll find that only 84 girls. And as you can see, this is a picture of a school in the rural areas, and you can see that almost 90% of the students are boys, and then only 2 or 3 are girls. So the inequalities are more evident in rural areas and in upper Egypt, and you find that 1/3 of little girls, of the girls in rural areas, are not educated. They are not involved in schools. And if the family can afford to send children to school, they will send the young boy and will not send the girl, because for them it is not important that the girl will be educated. This will not be beneficial for them. But the boy, yeah, this might. So even if you can afford, you will send the boy and will not. And in some societies, it's like taboo for the girl to go out and get some education. So in the basic education phase, like in the middle school, in the preparatory and the middle school, we'll find that boys and girls are separated, they are segregated. So we'll find a whole building for boys and a whole building for girls, or different schools where they're not together. And this is in public schools and most of the private schools as well. So this is a middle class, a middle school, and you'll find that all the girls are veiled, as you can see, and the headscarf. This is a public school, and you'll find that all of them are girls. So a school for girls, a school for boys, and they're not allowed to mix though. But what is interesting that in the universities they are together and they attend classes together. However, you'll find that the girls, they tend to sit alone, and so there's like this separation or already the society has built the idea that girls should be and boys should be separated. So you will find like separation, and you find them like they are sitting in a group of boys and a group of girls. And what is very interesting that in a higher education, the female, like they represent like 54%, and most of them actually in humanities. So you find that female students are more than the males, which is very important. So in general now, Egyptian women have ventured into many fields, but still their status are not very high. They still are not equal to men. They are still treated as second-class citizens, and they are still discriminated against. There is always this inner belief that the man is superior to women. And women, actually, they have the same feeling, so they have it in them. So not only the men, but you find that women, and you find that they are quite well educated, but they still have the same inner feeling in that the man is superior and the man has the power to control her and to control her life. So why this enforced? Because of all that, why this status is still there? Because of all the cultural and religious norms. So the cultural and religious norms actually constitute the roles of men and women in the family. So you cannot help it. If you are a part of the Egyptian society, so you have to abide, and you have to do the norms. And the norm that women are, the main responsibility for women is to stay at home, take care of the home and children, and then the main responsibility of the boys to go out and support the children. But it's very interesting to note that in rural areas and in lower class areas, we'll find that women are the main resource for the family. They are the supporter, they support the families financially. So, but still, the woman is discriminated against. But now she has to go out to get the food for the family and to support the family financially, and she's still treated as a second class. So this image of women as economic assets and providers is now in conflict with the roles that is reinforced by religious values. So it is religion that, because in Egypt religion has very strong influence in our lives. So we find that all our cultural norms are influenced by the religion and religion's norm. So it is in religion, Egypt, and the majority of Egyptians are Muslims. So we find that it is in the religion that men have a certain role to play, and it is stated in the religion that men are superior to women. So that's why, because we are very influenced with the Islamic religion, so that's why it is inside us, and you cannot get rid of it. Even if you are very educated in a very high position, you still have this feeling inside you, the woman, that you are inferior.
Mama.
So still there's this dominant gender ideology that shapes all the cultural norms, and as I said, that this ideology is influenced and shaped by the Islamic beliefs. So Egyptian society can fairly be described as a male-dominated society. It's a patriarchy that the man controls the woman in his life, being his mother, his sister, his wife, his daughter. So he has the right to control his life. And actually we have this sense of sexual frustration in Egypt. And you'll find that in Egypt there is that sex is like a very taboo topic, and you will find that everyone is talking about sex. So it's like, we have this frustration about sex. And you'll find that the man has the right to dominate women's sexuality. And girls are expected to be virgin at marriage. And they are not allowed to use their virginity unless in the legal relationship of marriage. you'll find that the status of the woman, or the legal status of the woman and her character, it actually depends on her sexuality. So you find that a father, the relation between the father and his daughter will differ if she's a girl, or when she got married, or if she's a divorced woman. So I mean that women's sexuality, like, they form their identity. So there's a big deal in Egypt about the idea of being virgin and this sexuality. So this is generally the situation in Egypt. Now, women are still like treated as second-class citizens, and there's self-censorship from the women, so from the girl or the woman itself on herself, and there's the society censorship on the women. And I want to take you back to the history of feminism in Egypt, and particularly in the 19th and 20th century. Because in Egypt, in the 19th century, I don't know if you are familiar with the 1990 revolution in the British occupied Egypt. No? All right. So the whole idea started with the French occupation in Egypt in the 18th century. When the Egyptians started to deal with the French, so the European, ideas started to invade Egypt slowly. So this is what the start of the women movement. And in the 19th century, with the British occupation, the movement of nationalism started. And with the movement of nationalism, feminism started. And it was the first time for women, for the females, to go out in the streets and to participate in demonstrations against the occupation. So it was with the French occupation in Egypt that the whole idea of changing the position of women started. In the 19th century, during Muhammad Ali, I don't know if you're familiar. He did a number of modernization reforms. He tried to introduce reform to the Egyptian society, and one of his achievements that he established a school for women, for young girls and women, in which they can be taught like sciences, humanities, but still female education. Very, very restricted. So when the British occupation began, the idea of nationalism and feminism started to appear. So it was the first time for women to participate in the 1990 revolution, and they went on the street and they demonstrate against the British occupation. And this woman, actually, this is on the left, is Huda Sha'arawi, and on the right is Sofia Zaghloul. And they are very activist, feminist, and they started with the 19th revolution, and they established what is known as the Egyptian Feminist Union. And Huda Sha'arawi actually was the leader of this union, and that's why she went and participated in a conference in Rome about feminism and women's rights. And then when in her way back, she took off her veil, the face veil, because at that time all women were like covered their faces, but out of decency, out of like every woman, but not out. Now it's out of this is like religious, but at that time it's like social norm to cover. So in her way back, she took off her veil, and this was a sign of women liberation, that women has to be exposed to the world and has to take part and participate. And actually, the Huda Sha'arawi in the 1928 or 29, she gave a lecture in the American University, and she challenged the audience and she asked for the polygamy, to abolish polygamy, the right of men to have more than one wife. And at that time, imagine that in the early 20th century, a woman now speaking to the public and asking for abolishing the polygamy. She received a lot of attacks, and up till now, the practice of polygamy is still in our society. And up till now, you'll find that a man has the right to marry up to 4. So, and before that, this is Huda Sha'rawi and her colleagues can be regarded as the beginning of the first wave of feminism in Egypt. The second wave of feminism started after the Second World War. It was started by establishing it wasn't a political party, but it was a kind of political party for women. And women at that time, they went very radical, and they went into strikes, and they asked for their political rights. They wanted to be treated as equal as men, and they wanted to have their own political rights. And then with the 1952 revolution, and then when the military took over and they get rid of King Farouk, and Egypt transformed from a kingdom to a republic. So Nasser came, Abdel Nasser, the second president of Egypt, he came and he abolished all the feminist movement. So, and that was the beginning of oppressing women again. And the third wave of feminism, which is we are living in right now, which is not very strong, it started, I think, in the 70s, and it started with a very famous writer in Egypt. She's a woman, and she wrote a book about women and sexuality. So we have this frustration about sexuality in Egypt. And in the book, she asked for that the same criteria that the man and the woman should be judged with the same criteria, because the concept of honor, it differs from a man to a woman. For the concept of for a woman, you have to be, the concept of honor is related to her sexual status. But for a man, it is expected that he should have experience before getting married. I don't know how he's going to have an experience with whom, I don't know. But this is the society expectations. But for a woman, no way. So this concept of honor, the criteria of judging a man and a woman. So she, in her book, she asked for to have the same criteria for judging a man and a woman. So, and this can be considered as the third wave of feminism. So now what is the situation of women in Egypt? We are still discriminated against, we are still treated as a second-class citizen. With the strong rise of Islamist movements, now Muslim Brotherhood and Islamist movement are very, very strong in Egypt, and they have very strong charisma. So, and the granddaughter of Huda Sha'rawi, who took off the veil in the 20th century, now they are putting on the veil, and they are very proud of it. And I want to share with you this thing. It's a very short video that gives you an idea about how the Egyptian society looks like and the modern Egyptian woman.
For me, veiling in Egypt has always been down to personal choice, but its history has been a lot less straightforward. This woman, Huda Sha'rawi, took off her veil in the Cairo train station on her way back from a women's conference in Europe in the 1920s and started a national wave of unveiling. Everyone started taking their veils off.
By the 50s and 60s, Egyptian women were dressing in a style that wouldn't have looked out of place in some European cities. Despite our differences over the Suez Canal, the British influence has always been strong here. But it's different for their daughters. The pendulum has swung back the other way. Over 3/4 of women cover their heads now, compared to under a quarter 10 years ago. But this revival, which is part political, part religious, isn't cramping their style.
This law wasn't around when I was here as a student about 10 years ago. First thing I noticed as soon as I walked in, take a look at all this colour, no black anywhere. They've all got like funky designs, like either gathered at the side or pinned up. Look at this, it's got it around her neck and then twisted at the back. It's quite cool, I think. And she's basically hand-picked every item herself. This is obviously very see-through. She's bought a white body underneath, put it on top, layered her scarves to get the whole kind of like funky red and white look going on.
Everywhere I look, there are women with colourful creations wrapped around their heads. These inventive styles just weren't around 10 years ago.
I want to find out more about this headscarf revolution, not driven by the fashion business, but by young Muslim women on the streets. They're creating styles to suit themselves. Isn't that what real street style is all about?
So this, just to give you an idea about women and young girls and how the Egyptian society now looks like. It wasn't like that. Like 10 years ago, you will not find all the girls like covering their heads. And the issue of putting on the veil in Egypt is very. You will not find like if you go and ask a young lady why you are putting on the veil, you'll find her like because all the girls are wearing the veil. So it's a social norm. Not many people have strong belief in what they are doing. But the society expects you to cover your head and to wear these things. Out of modesty, out of that, this is how you should look. And we find that, of course, those who are not wearing the veil are discriminated against, and are the ones who are always harassed in the street. And you'll find that society does not appreciate young girls who are not wearing the veils, like too different from them. And you will find that at the same time, those who are putting on the veil, there are stereotypical image for some people that veiled girls or veiled women are not well educated, they are stupid, they are dumb, they are not very smart. So we find that it's two-way discrimination. So women now are still struggling, and there's still this stereotypical image of women as subordinate, women as a second-class citizen. And women now, they're having the same problem that their grandmothers faced. Violence against women in the Egyptian society, the rate of violence is very high. According to statistics that we have a center, Alexandria Center for women. It used to be Sudan Mubarak, the former first lady. She established this center, and this is for the women, like a center that issued every year annual report about the status of women and their rights. So according to the latest publication, the rate of violence, like 70% of women, they faced violence in some way or another. Wife beating, a father who beats his daughter. So the rate of violence against women in Egypt is very, very high. And sexual harassment, this is like everyday practice. This is my expectation every day if I'm walking in the street, that someone will harass me verbally, physically. Not because I'm not veiled, but because I'm a woman and a girl. So, latest report that like more than 85% of the Egyptian women faced harassment, verbal or physical harassment. So it's very, very common in Egypt. Because there's always this feeling that the man is superior to women. So for him it's like you're not a human being. You're less than human being. So this idea of the dehumanization. And of course FGM and female genital mutilation. And this is very common practice, especially in rural areas and Upper Egypt. And this is related to the sexual frustration that we have in the Egyptian society. So because of the notion of honor is associated with the girl's sexuality, so this is their way to deprive the woman of the desire to have sex. Because in the Egyptian society it is not allowed, it is not something that you are not allowed to have the desire to have, this is like a taboo. No, not an object, the sex object. And honor killings. You will find that the violence in the Egyptian society is around the idea of sexuality. So we have this frustration, we have this hysteria, if I may say. But the picture is not that bleak, it's not that dark, and there are significant achievements that recently happened in the Egyptian society before the uprising. And I want to highlight that all that what I'm going to say that happened before this period. So in 2003, the first woman was appointed to Egypt Supreme Constitutional Court. So we have the first judge female, and for the Egyptian society, this is something very new. And we can say that before the revolution, that 30% of ministers and senior officials and managers were not anymore, were women. Egypt was the first Muslim country to appoint a female marriage officer, and that was in 2008. In 2009, the parliament or the People's Assembly, they passed a law that there is a quota for women. So in the People's Assembly, which is the lower house of parliament, women should have 64 seats. And after the revolution, this law was abolished. I don't know how. I'm not supporting the idea of quota, but this is the way that we are going to guarantee women's rights, so why not? But after the revolution, this was abolished. We can say that 25% of top management positions in civil service are currently held by women. And at my institution, in the Library of Alexandria, actually half of the staff, if not more, are women, and they are in high positions. Women's share of the labor force has risen from 9.5 to 22, which is very significant. So these are some of the achievements. I don't want to give you the idea that Egypt, the situation is very bad, but this is not the same. But so I tried to introduce some positive aspects of the situation. So, but what happened to women after the Egyptian uprising? I don't know if you are familiar with what happened in Egypt by the beginning of this year and the uprising and all the movement. Women were very present. And you'll find women and men in the streets, and they're very enthusiastic. But what happened after that, I don't know. So female faces were very visible in the crowd in the Tahrir Square. And I would love to show you a video. How women...
Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak must step down. That's what thousands of women in Cairo are demanding. For more than a week, they've been marching side by side with the men, arms and voices raised, but they've received little media attention. But now, the women of Egypt say enough is enough. They want the right to speak out their minds. Some wearing colorful colorful scarves, some with styled hair and jeans, and others with their faces covered, the protesters are all demanding one thing: an end to a regime that has left them impoverished, weary, and without hope.
And that's the end. That's the end of Mubarak era.
For some of these women, it's the first time they take part in a protest.
أول مرة أشارك في المظاهرة، والمرة دي أنا جيت علشان حاسة إن إحنا لازم كلنا نتكاتف، كل فئات الشعب، سواء average, over average, below average، لأن إحنا لازم يكون في تغيير، لازم يكون في إحساس إن إحنا كلنا إيد واحدة.
Others say they've been drawn in by the historical significance of the events.
We felt like we cannot stay at home when people are dying in the streets because they have a cause. We felt like we have to come here and do whatever we can.
Whatever the reason for their presence, today's women are not only breaking the traditional stereotypes, but they're also demanding a more active role in shaping their country's future. These women want the world to see them for who they are, people who want hope for the future and a voice in their country's affairs.
So you can see that women were present and were very enthusiastic, and actually at that time there was this belief in Egypt that the gender issue disappeared suddenly. I don't know how. Suddenly disappeared, and the Egyptian society has become more open, tolerant society, and women and men are now equal. So in the euphoric and even utopian atmosphere of Tahrir Square, they were talking about the Egyptian psychological breakthrough. So there's no more the walls of fear, class, even gender. But the gender thing cannot be easily disappeared in a society where women have been treated as a second-class citizens.
Oh, there you go.
So after the Egyptian uprising, women are not present anymore. They are not in the leadership circles. They are totally ignored. So you will find that only one woman in the current interim cabinet. And this minister, this female minister, it is interesting to highlight that this is like she's a handover from the previous government, from the previous cabinet. So she's not new. So the new authority and the new prime minister, they did not appoint a woman, a female minister. And because all the governors in Egypt had to resign, and now we have new governors, but no female governors were appointed. And not even a female judge or a lawyer was appointed to be part of the committee that reformed the constitution before, because after Mubarak, when Mubarak left the office, the higher military council, they formed a committee to reform the constitution, and there was not even one woman was represented in this committee. And the Mubarak era quota, the law that I told you about, that women should have like 64 seats in the parliament, was abolished. So it seemed that things are deteriorating. Women are like, they are not in the scene. We will not find women in the media, we will not find women in the talk shows, in the news programs. So things are going.
You've proven yourself to be very adroit with technology and with the English and Arabic languages. So thank you for being here. We have time for a few questions. I'd like to first say, if you wouldn't mind standing up, George, as Exhibit A. Students seeking merit housing points need to see George before you leave tonight.
I'll be set up probably on the couches back there.
Right. You won't be responding to questions. That's Mona's.
No.
All right. Thank you all for coming in. Now, if you have a few questions, is that all right?
Are women allowed to vote, or are they trying to get the right to vote?
Women are allowed to vote. Women are allowed to vote, But only recently, I think that only in the last 10 days, 10 years.
Are they allowed to drive? Because in
Yeah,
Saudi,
they are allowed to drive.
It's interesting that you said that now that the Mubarak is out, all of the women have been taken out of everything.
Yeah.
So what's going on? I mean, what is there any movement? What do you think? How long do you think it's going to take to get back to that period?
Yeah, I think
it's like you're starting over again.
Yeah, I think that there are 3 reasons for that. First of all, that we have many problems in Egypt. So now talking about women's and women's rights, it's a luxury that we cannot afford. So let us not talk about it now. The second is Mrs. Mubarak, the former First Lady. She was very supportive, and she used to do all kinds of projects and activities that support women's rights. And now they're trying to abolish all these programs because they are affiliated to Susan Mubarak. So, so this era of chaos that we are living in, so trying that people are trying to destroy all the achievement and start from square one. The third reason is the rise of Muslim Brotherhood and Islamist movements. They are very strong. And there are calls for women to get back to the private sphere and get back to home. And there's always calls for women to be like, take care, your main role is to your children and your home and not to go out to the streets. So with the rise of Islamist movement, women's rights are gone. How long it will take, I have no idea. I doubt that anyone in Egypt has an idea about what will happen after that.
But the young people.
Now we're going nowhere, so it's a state of nowhere. So
really, it's the young people that need to kind of step up, I guess.
I think that young people need to gather, to sit together at one table, to have a national vision for the country, to have a plan. To start thinking what they want to do, and to have a plan to build up the country, and not only to go on the streets and shout and say we do not want that, we do not want that. Yeah. Hopefully young people will be able to. But young people are not present. You will not find them in the leadership circles. They are not in all the committees. Every day we have a new committee. Doing what, I have no idea, but every day there is a declaration that today a new committee has been formed. And you will not find women or young people are not present. So it is the same mentality, the same attitude.
I'm very interested in the role of Suzanne Mubarak. So the idea being that she's part of the old regime, the corrupt regime, so anything she supported is out.
Is out.
Was she part of what drove the opening, whatever there may have been, under the Mubarak regime? Or were there other people, other strong women as well in Egypt, who just are being quiet now? Or really was any development in recent years due to her position?
I think that this is my own point of view, that all the recent achievements can be, she could be credited, yeah. This is her credit, because she established a number of institutions for women, and she's the first one who introduced the idea of human trafficking and women trafficking. And she was the one behind reforming the law to give women more rights, and to give women the right to ask for divorce, to get divorced, because now there's a law that if you go to the court and say I don't want this man, so you are now divorced. And I think that she's the one who was behind this law. So any like formal achievement, any big formal achievement, I think that could go back to her.
Has it ever been the case that women who chose not to wear the veil were punished, and do you see that as being a possibility for the future, the near future?
You mean punished officially or in the
Yes.
public?
Punished or having a jail sentence or whatever.
No. But still, she will be like stigma. So I'm a stigma in my society. Like I'm too liberal for many people, or for many people that I'm not decent enough. I'm not modest enough. So yeah. But this formal punishment or official punishment.
Social media played such an important role in the Arab Spring, Twitter, Facebook. Do you think that, we'll call them legitimate institutions that are created every day with, men who are sort of disenfranchising the youth and women, do you think those social media at some point will be re-energized as social movements around fourth wave feminism and youth movements will be able to spring up in their own sort of Arab Spring at some point and fight against these institutions?
Maybe yes. Personally, I'm not optimistic. I'm a very pessimistic person, so I don't have high hopes. But yes, social media played an important role, and everyone in Egypt now is very familiar with Facebook. And you'll find that all the officials and ministers and even the military council, they have a Facebook page. So now it's this new medium of communication. But I still have a hope that at some point youth or women activists or feminists will unite and will use social media to change a society. But I doubt. But this is my own personal. Because now we are a state of chaos, we are having many problems. So talking about women's and women's rights for some people, are you crazy? We're like every day hundreds of people are losing their jobs, and we have a problem with security, which is very, very. Now we are having a problem with the Copts, the Christians in Egypt. We are having the problem of minorities, majority, and there's no space to talk about women's rights. This is my own.
Are there any repercussions for the the honor killings, or do the people that do those, do they just get free?
You mean illegal
Yeah,
official actions?
Legal against that? No?
Not very common, because you will find that you may not even know that a girl or a woman was killed, because it's like it is within the family, and the family now, this is their honor and they have to protect it. And you will not even, you will not find that people report that there's a crime that took place. So not usually they just got free.
I'm just interested in how you as a woman deal with these oppressions that you get from men within your society. How do you personally deal with being treated in that way?
My situation is different. I'm lucky to have an enlightened family. So I don't have a problem with my family. Usually I don't have a problem. So I find problems dealing with men, and but you will find in my society that it is inside me that I'm still respecting the social norms, respecting but not accepting, but to some extent respecting the social norms. But I don't have many problems because of my family, and I was lucky to join an institution that is enlightened, and I don't have a problem with my institution. But I used to have a problem in my school, because I went to a public school in high school, and for the teachers there that are not doing, so you must be a Christian. So I have to be, so I'm Christian, or so there's something wrong with me. So I used to have a problem in high school. But now, or I have learned how to deal with it.
Question: Do you think that there's a greater promise for progress by looking at international or universal ideas about women, or will more of a solution be somehow transforming within an Egyptian framework? Does it help you that you travel internationally?
Yeah.
Or does, I mean, obviously it stigmatizes you in its own way too, but.
It helped me that I travel and I got exposed to international societies and to see how women are treated. But for me, this increased my frustration. But this is me. But maybe for someone else, she may got enthusiastic and go back and try to do something. But for me, I'm not initiator, so but I'm good at criticizing, but I'm not good at taking actions. So this is me personally, but maybe yes. And I think that the idea of social media and that women will be exposed to other societies, and the idea of globalization, that we are now all connected, we are all connected together. So this exposure maybe will be a motivation for women to take action. But I think that Egypt is not in the mood for women's rights now. They have different priorities.
What would be some of the ramifications of the Muslim Brotherhood having more power?
In terms of women's status?
Yes. Or the society.
Or the society in general? Yes. I cannot say something for and you can take it from me for granted, because their agenda, the official agenda, that they are very open and they will work for women's rights and for respecting the others, and they will respect the minorities' rights. This is their declared agenda. But if you trace their history and see how their history is so bloody, and they are fundamentalists, and they are not tolerant, and they cannot accept others. So you expect that this would happen again. You will not expect freedom of expression. You will not expect that someone who has the guts to come and criticize religion. You will not expect women to be not raped. I think that veil at that time may come something like Saudi Arabia, that you have to put the veil no matter if you are veiled or not veiled, but you have to do it like this is the social norm that you have to, otherwise you will be punished officially. I think that you will find that women are, the number of women in the workplaces will getting less and less. They have women in the Muslim Brotherhoods, but they have these ideas in them that they join Muslim Brotherhood to support the men in their struggle. So they will be in the back, just giving support, and will not go to the front. So these are all expectations. But if we say that they are honest, so everything will be fine, and they will support women's rights and minorities, and the country will be a utopian.
Well, thank you very much for being with us.